All right, let's just jump right into this one. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking something absolutely wild. We're decoding an intercepted, desperate SOS transmission log broadcasted out to, well, anybody listening. And let me tell you, this reads literally like a journal of pure despair. It's an earthpunk nightmare. Think graphic novel meets super dark anime. We're talking mud, blood, and a gritty underground resistance where survivors are just desperately searching for a single glimmer of hope shining down from this thing called the metal sun. Let's pull up the very first piece of this transmission and see exactly the kind of hell on earth we're dealing with. Supreme Emperor Soul by Divine Right. Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. This is the official decree of a figure known only as the Architect. This isn't just some politician. This is a guy who has literally elevated himself to godhood. And honestly, this one quote instantly sets the dark, incredibly oppressive tone of the world we're exploring today. The Architect hasn't just conquered the planet, he's completely reshaped its reality to serve his own twisted vision. And he pulled it off using a truly terrifying piece of technology. So the core of this twisted new reality relies on this thing, the metal sun. The logs describe it as this colossal, swirling vortex of light and energy. I mean, the Architect didn't just build a weapon. He built an entirely new celestial body. And when this metal sun rose to its zenith, it was the absolute catalyst for humanity's enslavement. It brought about the end of the old world and ushered in this era of blinding absolute control. The survivors on the ground weren't just defeated, they were turned into literal pawns under its glaring artificial light.
Section 1. Earth's Desolate Wasteland.
There is a staggering sensory contrast in this world. On one side, way up high, you have Icarus, also known as Ellison Island. This is a sprawling, artificial space island. It's pristine, it's safe above the ruin, and it is heavily monitored by an overarching authority known as the Empire. But then, you have the other side, down below, Earth. It's a completely desolate wasteland of twisted metal, crumbling concrete, and totally polluted air. Just imagine the cold, sterile perfection of Icarus floating up there in space, looking down on this filthy, ruined reality where once vibrant cityscapes are nothing but rubble.
To really grasp how this messed up world actually functions, we have to break down the brutal power dynamics our reluctant hero, a guy named Lucky, is up against. Right at the top is the Empire, led by the Architect, and they use the metal sun and world police bots for absolute control. Sitting right in the middle is the Metal Mafia. They're led by this ruthless, opportunist, edge danger man, who collaborates with the Empire purely to gain power and, honestly, just to torment the survivors. And at the very bottom, the Earth refugees. These are desperate people relying entirely on smuggling and the black market just to survive to see another day.
And, survival on the surface is nearly impossible because of the sheer scale of the Empire's oppression. The Architect actually launched these world police bots directly from Icarus to crush any sign of resistance. These lurking robots strictly enforce mandatory compliance through something called the Mark of the Beast, and if you refuse it, you're facing forced relocation to underground camps. So these immediate surface threats literally drive humanity right into the dirt, forcing the entire resistance movement to hide out in abandoned mine shafts and ruined subway tunnels.
Section 2. Trapped in the core. So Lucky's reality right now is an absolute nightmare. He's been driven deep into the Earth's core, into this isolated prison of muddy, bloody survival. He's completely surrounded by rusting machinery and the haunting remnants of humanity's past. And down here, he isn't just hiding from those police bots, he's facing down lurking creatures, dangerous mutants, and, well, hopefully he avoids the wrong crowd, super mutated roid clown vampires. Yeah, you heard that right. Plagued by the Metal Mafia on top of all that, it is purely a journal of despair. But Lucky is resilient, and crucially, he actually possesses some serious knowledge of bot programming.
So what's his play? How does he get out? Well, it comes down to a really desperate, highly tactical three-step ascent plan. Step 1, he has to physically discover and clear out an ancient, collapsed subway tunnel. Step 2, and this is where those programming skills really come in handy, he needs to hack into the world police bot systems so he can move completely undetected. And then Step 3, finally emerge back onto that treacherous, polluted surface. It's a remarkably resourceful plan for sure. But the thing is, reaching the surface, that's really only the beginning of his problems.
Section 3. The Mutagen Heist.
To even have a shot at getting to Icarus, Lucky has to make a deal with some incredibly wary black market smugglers. But the price they ask is steep. He has to enter the Caramel Nest. Think of a twisting, pitch black, and extremely foul-smelling underground labyrinth. Oh, and it's inhabited by massive, slug-like creatures armed with razor-sharp claws. This absolute subterranean nightmare hides a highly valuable, glowing, iridescent goo called mutagen. And right now, this mutagen is literally Lucky's only currency.
The transmission logs actually give us a pretty detailed timeline of this incredibly tense encounter, and the pacing is straight out of a super dark anime. It kicks off with a claustrophobic descent into the labyrinth. Then it immediately escalates into this brutal, chaotic confrontation with a massive caramel guardian. Next comes the strike. Against all odds, Lucky miraculously hits the beast right in its vulnerable underbelly. And finally, the retrieval. He secures that glowing pool of mutagen, he's got his ticket, he's won, or so he thinks.
Because right then, disaster strikes. Literally moments after this hard-fought victory, the roof of the cavern just completely collapses. Lucky is buried alive. He's weakened, he's battered, and he's trapped back underground just when he had his escape right there in the palm of his hand. We drop from the massive adrenaline rush of the fight right back into the suffocating despair. The absolute cruelty of this Earthpunk world is just on full display here.
At this point, it all comes down to a single number, 1. One desperate Morse code SOS tapped out in complete pitch-black darkness, hoping against hope that someone, any pony, is listening. And luckily, the transmission actually reaches someone. It reaches the Blue Bird bounty hunter, this calculating pilot who happens to honor her deals. Lucky offers up the mutagen in exchange for a rescue, but more importantly for access to a very specific place, a place called Avanta.C.
Section 4. Journey to Avanta.C.
The actual smuggling operation to escape this dead planet is incredibly tense. It goes down like this. First, the trade, handing over the mutagen for the Bluebird's rescue. Second, they have to physically navigate her ship through a deadly asteroid field. And third, they dock at Icarus, immediately blending into a sprawling, totally chaotic refugee camp on Ellison Island. Now, it's a bustling hub of desperate people, and it is heavily monitored by the Empire, but it's exactly where Lucky needs to be.
Working through a black market contact, Lucky manages to acquire an Avanta.C data crystal. Now, this is a highly illicit item. It grants an unauthorized account to a fabled, vibrant virtual universe. This tiny little crystal represents the ultimate glimmer of hope shining through the darkness of the metal sun. It's a digital frontier, built entirely on code and dreams, completely removed from the muddy, toxic reality of Earth. Just compare the reality Lucky just clawed his way out of, a desolate wasteland of twisted metal, blood, and ruin, to the virtual frontier of Avanta.C. We're talking impossible architecture, vibrant energy, limitless code. It is a true digital utopia compared to his physical hell. It's where Lucky hopes to finally find some freedom, maybe even join a hidden resistance, and ultimately escape the long reach of the architect.
But I want to leave you with this final, really provocative question. Can true freedom ever be found in a digital world that exists under the watchful gaze of the Empire? I mean, Lucky traded physical oppression in the dirt for a shiny digital utopia, sure, but the Empire still monitors absolutely everything. Are you ever really free if the system you escape into is ultimately controlled by the enemy? It's a pretty chilling thought to wrap up this transmission log. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your ears open for the next broadcast.